And you can hear me? Yes, very good. And this is the group today. It's Rebecca and Stephen and Annika. Very good. Okay. Let's start by just finding a comfortable position. Close your eyes. What is the expression of this moment? What is unfolding? You just become aware of every aspect, even expectations of this moment, or what this session should bring you, or whatever you have brought here today. Just leave it behind. And just stay with what is. Just observe this natural unfolding. If there is emotions, thoughts, bodily sensations, if you're comfortable or perhaps uncomfortable, just notice what is. In this moment, you don't have to control anything, fix anything, adjust anything. You just look at what is. See how the naturalness of now wants to express. You just stay as alertness itself. This aspect of the experience that might be overlooked by doing, trying, getting somewhere. Just this simple awareness of now. The aspect of you that does not change. That in you that can determine that everything is transient, everything is changeful. But you are not a phenomena. in actuality you are not changing, because in depth you are this awareness. You are the watchfulness of this moment. The aspect of reality that has no features, that doesn't have a smell or shape. But it has the quality of being. You could call it the first I. The sense of I before you attach that to anything. Prior to phenomena. And in your recognition of this awareness, notice how everything can be observed. You come back to the source. It's not really a doing of getting here. It is just something you can relax into. Recognizing the natural awareness of it. To the burdened mind, it can seem like magic. It can seem like you go from a heavy mind to just pure consciousness. But this is not magic. This is your nature. And the scent that it brings gives you a feeling that it is some kind of phenomena happening to you. But actually, it is the complete retreat from phenomena into your own natural being. This is where you come back to when you let go of the ideas of time. When you let go of the idea of a person, of being a person going somewhere. This is your natural state. Recognizing beingness as it is. Here nothing needs to be fixed. need to change is not there. Just the spaciousness of being. The thoughts that are associated with identification and ego might try to reclaim this moment, try to make themselves relevant by adding thoughts that are important or exciting. But you just stay as you are. This is where you make your home. In this presence, you embrace everything. Allow it all. Thoughts can happen, emotions can happen. Whatever this moment wants to express can happen. If you have a sense that you're keeping things away, invite them all. And when they come, you don't have to approach them, figure them out, or fix them. Just allow them to pass through. Allow the natural, transcendent nature of thoughts, emotions, to move as they naturally want. You can slowly open your eyes, move your body, stretch out your legs if you need to. I'm going to read a thing from the Tao Te Ching. I was given this book by a Anandamaya devotee called Muktananda, beautiful woman. She said, I need to give this to you. And I said, okay. And I have enjoyed it a lot. And this page says, some say my teaching is nonsense. Others call it lofty but impractical. But to those who have looked inside themselves, this nonsense makes perfect sense. And to those who put it into practice, this loftiness has roots that go deep. I have just 3 things to teach: simplicity, patience, compassion. These 3 are your greatest treasures. Simple in action and in thoughts. Simple in action. Simple in action and in thoughts, you return to the source of being. Patient with both friends and enemies. You accord with the way things are. Compassionate towards yourself. You reconcile all beings in the world. I come across so much talk about if teachings are right and if they're too much in a certain way. And people talk about spiritual bypassing and all these things. What is really grounded? But all those things are just a problem for people who assume a lot of things or want to take a very clear stance. If you look, it will never be a problem. Because what is. And you just have to be open that your view of things might change. However, many times I had heard that when the ego drops, it will be a great revelation in the moment. I still experienced it different when it happened. I still had some part that thought it was a philosophical idea, that it was an ideal somehow, something to look up to, and not really practical in the moment. It surprised me a lot. And you can have these ideas, but you still think that you're all the way in. Yes, I really, really trust this teaching, and you have these thoughts in you. And when you experience it, you notice, oh, I didn't trust. I didn't know, really. It is surprising like that. but it also makes it super practical and not philosophical. I understand that it can feel like a fairy tale to believe in meditation, and the ego can also get hooked on hope, the idea that this is going to save me somehow. You recognize this? And a longing for something fantastic to happen in your sadhana, in your practice. And it's so strange how even if you feel like you have trust and faith, you trust these words, and you can feel ready and all that, it will still surprise you. But that is also the beauty of it. And the mind always makes it little, it always distorts it. As soon as it gets its dirty fingers on it, it smudges things up. It has its ideas on what this present moment is. And it makes something of it. It wants to keep that idea. I know what awareness is, you will say. I think I have a quite good grasp of what it is. And this can be the entire distortion of it. Because it's not purely practical, it's still imagination. This is a good thing to question. What is beyond the image, the idea of it? What is awareness? I know that you have an experience of it. When I guide in this meditation, you can sense it. You can sense the present moment. Maybe it feels really, really profound. It's so obvious that it's here. But the mind still has its idea of where it's going, what you're going to do with it, what direction it has, how to get there more, how to make it deeper, bigger, whatever. And the pointing is not towards something. It is just the deep acceptance of the present moment, which is not a doing. I know that the mind can say, I'm going to accept more, I'm going to accept more, I'm really going to try to accept, embrace this moment fully. And it can make it into a doing. But to embrace this moment fully is to not resist it. That's all. It's not a doing. It's just the stopping of resisting. So then you just have to notice that you are resisting. Because most people resist their experience unconsciously. And it's very obvious with certain things, like pain in the body. Most people just have resistance to that pain. They're not allowing it as it is. there is something that just says, oh, I'm just waiting until this goes. Something that resists it. Something that very easily feels like a victim. All this play. It doesn't mean that your pain is not real, or you shouldn't move your body if the body feels very painful. It's not like that. It's just seeing how you resist pain. It doesn't mean that you won't understand that there is pain, but it's just the identification with it. And all the things that seem to disturb you are great, because they show how you resist. This is what most people miss. They just automatically live with their resistance. Say to themselves that it's normal and continue. Resisting certain people, certain situations, certain bodily experiences, whatever it is. This is why sitting with things is powerful. Inviting them, allowing them to be. See how you relate to them. See how you try to get rid of your resistance. And all the loops and things all the hoops that you jump through. Until you realize, okay, it's not like, okay, I cannot try like that. Because from the perspective of being, there is nothing to do. As soon as you try to push the experience about, you create more resistance, you create more relating to it, you try more. And then the mind says, oh, there's nothing to do. I cannot do it. Why am I coming here listening to this? I cannot do it anyway. Just allow my life to go on. And perhaps I fall into, if I'm lucky, I fall into just being one day. And strangely and paradoxically, it seems like you have to be close to it. People seem to be very, very much more lucky if they do their sadhana, if they contemplate on it, if they stay close to it. It comes back to them time and time again. They seem to be much more lucky. And you might be impressed by people who sit a lot or seem very disciplined. But the most important thing is your sincerity. I told you about this teacher who stands in the river, right? And one of his devotees goes by on the shore. I think this might be a Sufi story. And he yells from the shore to the teacher who stands in the river, how do I know if I'm determined enough for the practice, for the sadhana? And the teacher says, I cannot hear you. Please come out in the river. Oh, the student is very reluctant because he knows that this teacher has very strange methods of teaching. And he's a bit worried what's going to happen if he goes into the river. And again, when he starts to approach the teacher, he says again, how do I know if I have the determination that I'm sincere enough for this sadhana? Come closer, come closer. And as soon as he comes in within arm's reach, the teacher grabs the student and pushes him underwater. Holds him underwater, and he starts to. And when he's almost completely out of breath, he lifts him up and he takes one of these. And he says, you have to, as much as you wanted air right now, that is how much. And with that, he just wanted to show that because there are so many distractions. You can be distracted by everything. And especially when you practice, at first you're very determined because you feel like the egoic mind feels heavy and it's not so nice. And then you start to do your sadhana and you start to feel better. You start to have more energy, you're more present. You notice that your relationships with people become better. And it's so easy to come to a level of, I feel good now, and just got drawn into it. And I call this part of you that really wants to know that it is almost a little bit crazy. It wants to know what is beyond. And even if the thoughts of death comes, loneliness, that you're going insane, all this, you still want to know. And none of those things are dangerous in any way, actually, because they are just thoughts. They're just the ego trying to get you back. And you might say, but I don't have determination like that. But the strange thing with it is that you don't really know. Because at some point you will be following that longing, and suddenly you realize this is the longing of longings. And it will be so clear to you, even if it wasn't before. And that can also truly surprise you. But all these ideas of I have to get better, I have to be more disciplined, I have to try harder somehow. That is not very helpful. For the one who is very, very distracted and very lazy, it might be helpful for a while to just be disciplined. But usually those people who feel like that, they're not drawn to me so much, I've noticed. So if the sincerity is there, then the longing for freedom is there. And this is not something that can be pushed. But in the relaxation into beingness itself, it can blossom. You come back to it again and again. You come here again and again. And you start to see how it almost has a life of its own. That you are drawn to things in an intuitive way. You start to do things that you might not have done before, that can just be asking the universe for help. You start to say things like, show me. I don't know where I'm going right now. You have to show me. And you'd start to trust. This kind of faith is very beautiful. Because this opens up for the teaching not to be external anymore. That you start to invoke the inner guru. This intuitive sense that you can just follow. It has nothing to do with just feeling, going with your gut and things like that, which many people assume to be their more intuitive sense. Maybe they're very heady, and then you just start to go with their emotions instead. But this runs much deeper than that. And it can contradict your emotions sometimes. But it has the quality of openness. And you might not know why in the moment even. If you really trust it, you just go with it. You sense, okay, I'm going to talk with this person now. Okay, let's see what happens. And you just notice how it unfolds. And that trust is beautiful because it starts to show that life is just happening. And it feels like there is a choice, but the choice is either to resist or allow. It's not really a choice between two situations anymore. You can just allow this movement, this natural movement to happen, or you can resist it. And from the ego standpoint, it's often not a good idea to just go with that very spacious, very flowy expression. It will resist it. It will say, it's not a good idea. Not right now. We can do it tomorrow. But when that is in alignment and you have the openness, it feels so natural. And it has a very deep intelligence, and it feels, even if there is effort in the things that you do around it, it feels completely effortless. Have you noticed this sometimes? That you do things that can be difficult and quite challenging physically or even mentally, that you have to do something, but it's just so obvious that it's happening, that there is no resistance. And the quality of that movement is always a sense of openness. It never locks in. Do you understand what I mean by that? Because the mind is very much in expectations and locks in on things, wants it to be a certain outcome. And with this, it just feels more like the possibility is open. There's just space. It seems very abstract, but in the experience, it's very tangible. And it's just sometimes completely conflicting with the thinking mind. But this spaciousness makes life much more alive. And this is also just a good thing to be in observance of, to recognize what creates the stickiness and what makes everything gray and what makes things come alive. Because usually we have so many ideas and so many beliefs, and they just are layers upon layers of identification, and they make everything dull. And it's so easy to not live your life. To just go with your ideas, being completely drawn and in a trance of the thinking mind and your ideas of where you're heading. And people can live in that for such a long time. And usually something drastic has to happen, some crisis in their lives for them to be pulled out of it. And if you're in that kind of situation, you get confused by it because everyone says that you're in a negative situation because some crisis has happened in your life. But there is a part of you that suddenly can be here, that doesn't care, that doesn't need to be formed to fit in. And the naturalness of being can just be expressed. And if you're fortunate in your life, you will hear these kind of teachings and realize that, it's not the external events that made me present. It is here, always. It is the source of being. It is the source of everything. And when you start to notice that, you stop being afraid of a crisis or something happening, because you know that everything is as it should be. And that the universe is love. and it holds you. My ex-girlfriend and now friend Ingrid, she said, "Oh, I'm in the safest place when you hold me in your arms." And then she looked sad and she said, "But who is holding you?" And I said, "The universe is holding me. This is the safest place. The beauty of this moment." I know that it's so easy to not trust, to think that life has to be aligned somehow in a different way. Things have to be moved around. And it is so strange that all that is needed is the acceptance of this moment. That is love. It's so easy for the ego to get lost on single ideas, get a hiccup on something, that a piece of the puzzle that doesn't fit perfectly. There is some paper behind you, Anders, in that. Yes, Julia says it. The mind so easily gets hung up on things, throws out the whole teaching because there is a little thing that I don't like. But that is just looking for the perfect sincerity on the outside. It is much more important that it is here. Any questions today? Yes, please take the mic.
You talked about discipline, and sometimes I just find it not so clear when, like I know you said, like sometimes we need, like, physically or mentally we have to do something challenging and it feels like we don't do it, but then sometimes maybe, like for example, when we're sitting and it becomes uncomfortable, and then we can just ask or inquire into it also, right? Or would that be hard discipline? I mean,
no, you can inquire into who is in resistance of this, who is the victim of this pain. If you have pain in the body, you can inquire into all those things.
even if it feels like something is holding on and it's just, it just wants
Yes,
to
that's
let-
why
it-
you
it just
inquire.
yeah. Mm.
Because you want to find the source of that. Because you have to uphold it. It is a doing. That's why it's heavy. Because the allowance, just to allow this moment, is not heavy. It's light. Even if the experience is quite challenging. And I know that you can have pain and not be bothered. You know that it's possible. And it bothers you on the surface level. It restricts your movement. Something is happening but nothing is happening in you. You understand?
Yeah, but in those moments, I don't really care about it.
Yes, but the one who says that it doesn't care. You understand?
Yeah.
As soon as you go into that, you go into resistance. You try to be the one that doesn't care. Because if it doesn't bother you, it's not a thing.
Yeah, that's
You're
fine.
not for or against. I'm just trying to make it clear to you. Because as soon as you say that there is something to do with it, there is identification, and it is something to you. Then you can want it or resist it, all these things. Feel a victim by it, being the fixer of it. All those things are identification. But if you completely allow it, it is not a thing. It's just a phenomena rising and falling.
But however it unfolds.
Yes.
Yeah. If that means I change my body position.
Yes. But then that will also
Unfold.
happen naturally.
Yeah.
You relieve the body of the pain. You scratch the itch. Whatever is needed.
Thank you.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I would appreciate it if you would speak about the potential differences between allowing and impulsivity. So, yeah, I guess that's the simplest way. And I could say more of the context from which I mean that question if you need, but this is, I think, the essence of it for me that is coming up regularly as a thought obstacle in allowing what I'm hearing to land.
Yes. Because I touched on it briefly a moment ago when I said that some people, they say that they go with intuitive sense, but all they do is go with their feeling.
With the
Feeling.
feel.
Yes. So they start to move from here to much more here. they go with what they feel. They say, like my gut feeling says. But that can be as much colored by the ego as the mind. And you just feel like, yes, I'm going more with my gut. And often that can be very spontaneous and but also can be super destructive.
Yes. Amen.
Yes. I want this now. I have a strong feeling of that. There's no thoughts, but there's a very strong feeling. This kind of impulsive, very strong impulsive sense can be there and has nothing to do really with the freedom. Because it always, this emotion also has, it has a very specific goal. It always wants something very specific. It wants excitement. It wants things to happen. It wants a way out of boredom. It wants to show that I am important. These kind of things. But the intuitive sense, it has none of those flavors. You don't really understand it sometimes. It just, oh, freedom is this way, it says. This is expansive. This is free. I want to listen to this. And the mind says, no, but that is so boring. Come on. We can do something else. It can be in complete contradiction to that. But these emotions are in the same way, but they just feel a bit more subtle because they're not expressed thoughts. But they can be deeply impulsive and just want to be satisfied in the moment. I want this now. And if you just observe it, you will very easily see the difference in those qualities. The more you see the intuitive sense and how it operates through you, you will notice that, okay, they have completely different qualities. But I understand on a surface level that you can just interpret it like my gut feeling is what I really want.
I have a fear of letting go of, I've been homeless before, and by following a sense of freedom, but I think it's more in this kind of I throw it all up in the air and I don't care what happens.
Yes.
You know, like I'm not bound by social rules. And now there is a lot of contraction or fear around just even the idea of losing any stability. And I want to really try and navigate this kind of carefully. And I have really appreciated what you said around the gut feeling not being the same as
Intuition.
That it's different. Yeah.
Yes. And usually also just to be observant of all these tendencies to those spontaneous tendencies to create freedom is to create drama, to create something that happens. This is very much the domain of the ego that likes things to happen. The ego likes gossip, it likes drama, it likes something to happen. It does not like nothing. Boredom is like death to the ego.
Can I say one more thing?
Yes.
How I notice myself gravitating towards in my life is I want more boredom. I'm done. I feel like I'm done with these things. I want a little house stuga in Umeå where nothing happens and just to sit in it and do nothing. And in going out in the world, I can feel contraction or overwhelm. And the idea of, just following my impulse to be free feels like a fear. I want to stay. So when you say the ego you see what I am trying to say? But I don't necessarily trust the desire to withdraw either.
No. And it's like you have to try your wings with this, with the intuition. You have to follow it, because it makes no sense, really. Some of the things that the intuitive sense wants, it doesn't make sense at all. And when you trust it, you just notice that your life becomes open. And also both the feelings can be afraid of it, and the thoughts can be afraid of it, and it still feels like it can be this deep sense that you have to do something that you're greatly fearful of.
Yeah.
I think most people have had that feeling at some point. You might be super afraid of standing in front of people talking, for example, and you have a sense, I have to do it. That is really, really strong, because you know that it will just open space in you.
Yeah, I know this difference, I think.
Yes. So it usually goes against what you want, and the outcome of it is not that super rational. It's not that you're gaining some excitement or kick out of it. Because it will just create space. It will just create possibilities. And that's its own reward. And to the ego, that feels far too vague. So you have to start to trust it, and the more you trust it, it will very easily come. Then it feels like it's just open, and you can just go with it. And you can go with it in very, very in a very practical manner. When you're out walking, you can notice how there is walking instead of you walking. And you can see how the intuitive part of you is taking over. It just feels like it gets to lead. Because our fears make us very controlled and very tense. And they say, don't let go of the reins, because it will be chaos. Your life will be chaos. What will I be if I'm not upholding my life? But you are not upholding your life. That is an illusion that is created by the ego saying, I am doing this. I was baking bread this morning, now I'm doing this. Now I'm gardening, now I'm this and this. The ego says that it does those things, but those things are actually just happening. And in the allowance of their natural happening, they will just unfold, instead of having the sense of owning the doership of the situation. And that also makes everything into sadhana. This is where meditation goes from a thing that you do to a thing that you are. That is true sadhana. To be with every moment and to allow it. Be attentive, see how it's unfolding. I think that many people have the sense that that life is just happening like that, and that we on top of that create a story. And when we talk about it like this, it becomes very obvious. And you see sometimes how the mind creeps in and just want to take credit. It wants to say, I did this. And when you talk about your life, you say, yes, and first I went to school here and I did this and I worked for a couple of years in this and then I decided this and this. You talk about it from a point of view that is totally like everything is a choice. But if you look at the actuality of things, they're just happening. And in the moment you take the decisions. And they just unfold in a certain way. Because that is how everything is happening. And this burden of identity creates a sense of always striving. Because then there is resistance to what is, and I am doing this, whatever the universe presents me with. But the unfolding of the present moment is everything. You're free to resist it, and you're free to go with it. Whatever you like. Complete freedom. And the mind says that there is 1,000 things. So many choices, so many paths, all this. But it's all just happening also. And these choices might feel like freedom, but the greatest freedom is the choiceless being. To the mind, it feels like a very narrow path. Oh, so you're saying there's only one choice, the ego says. But that is not the experience. It is just infinite, playful. The mind is so harsh. It can take such a strict path. It hears something and it wants to interpret it like oh, if I draw this conclusion, I have to do that. If I follow this path, I have this choice or that choice. And to the mind, it can feel so harsh. It can feel, the world feels so small. And it's easy to miss that that is not what I'm saying. I'm not saying that it is choices for the mind. I'm just telling you to look. See what this moment is. See what it brings. See what is the expression of it. Investigate if there is choice or there is no choice. And what does that mean? Instead of doing it into a belief. You know what it is to be attentive of this moment, right? Come back to watching. Resting as alertness itself. Allow the expressions of this moment. That's it. Find out. Make it your experience. Bring it home. Doesn't have to be out there anymore. See what the inner guru says. And you might feel too small for that voice. Who am I to trust this? That is natural. That is normal. How can all this beauty be? How can I be the source of it? It's too much. Am I worthy? It's in everyone. It's the same. The depth of it is the same. And if you meddle, you create clouds in the way. So just stay with it as it is. And it will naturally express. And your beliefs will be challenged in it. Your fears will be challenged in it. And also your worthiness will be challenged in it. It's so beautiful, but also scary. Like the truth itself. People often talk about that they lost themselves when they went down some path that they didn't like. But the paradox with meditation is that you really have to lose yourself to come home. Because the safety of identity is what keeps you down. That always keeps the feeling of being small, being not worthy, or being better than others, which is essentially the same, but the opposite. And real freedom is not to have to play the game, to be gameless. And in that there is so much space, so much empathy, so much love. Everything can be embraced. But you don't have to keep anything. Let's sing something. Sitaram, Jai Jai Ram, 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 Sitaram, Jai Jai Ram. 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 Again. Sitaram, Jai Jai Ram. 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 May all beings find peace. Find their way back to the source of this experience. Relaxing into awareness itself. May all beings find peace.